So now we are going to discuss about the another celestial bodies or the planets. So we discussed about the solar system. The solar system, it consists of sun, planets, asteroids, that is meteors and dust, and it also includes the satellites of the planets. So these are the various things that are found in the solar system. So the solar system, it contains the sun as its center. Sun is a star, a huge ball of burning gases. So the sun is at the center. It is surrounded by some objects, some spheres which rotate and revolve around the sun. They rotate on their own axis and they revolve around the sun. These are called as planets. So in the sky, in the night sky, when you see the bright objects, along with the stars, along with the moon, you will be able to see the planets also. The planets which are next or close to the earth can be seen in the sky. They are also bright objects. Why they are bright? Because they are also illuminated by the sun. So as they are illuminated by the sun, they are also seen like stars, but the difference you find between the planet and the star in their brightness, stars twinkle, but planets do not twinkle. Do not twinkle. Just they glow, but they do not twinkle like stars. Those are the planets. So where are the planets? The planets are around the sun. Do they all traveling in the same path? No. Each planet has got its own path around the sun. The planets, they are arranged with some distance between each of the planet. They have different distances from the sun. Some object, some planet is closer, next to that. There is some gap between the planets. So in such a way, they are revolving around the sun. So now, the planet is revolving around the sun in a specific path. Specific path. This specific path is called as orbit. So each planet has got its own orbit to revolve around the sun. Right? So each planet, it will take a specific time to complete one revolution. It started at this point, it's going this way, to come back again here, it will take some time. The time is called as period of revolution. Period of revolution. Generally we call it as a year, 1 year. For the earth we calculate 365 days approximately to complete one revolution around the sun. So just take the earth, the third position here. It will take 365 years to complete one revolution. The period of revolution, it varies from planet to planet. It is based upon the distance it travels. So some are far, which will take more time. So depends upon the distance, they will travel around the sun. They revolve around the sun. So the time period that is taken, that is required to complete one revolution by a planet, called as its period of revolution. And the path, the specific path in which the planet revolves around the sun, that path is called as orbit. So each planet not only revolving around the sun, they themselves rotate on their own axis. So planets rotate on their own axis. At the same time, they revolve around the sun. So each planet has got its own axis. So they rotate on their own axis. Certain planets, they have some other celestial bodies revolving around them. The earth has got one celestial body revolving around it. It is called as its satellite. Any celestial body revolving around another celestial body, you call it as satellite. The satellite of the earth is called with a name called moon. Moon is the satellite of Earth. So what is a satellite? Any celestial body revolving around another celestial body is called as a satellite. Moon is the natural satellite of the Earth. Of course, there are so many satellites revolving around the Earth which are sent by humans from the surface of the Earth into the orbit. So we are sending so many satellites for communication, for weather prediction, for all these various purposes we are sending artificial satellites. So here the natural satellite is the Moon. Cut. So let us talk about the different planets and certain facts about the planets. The first one we are going to talk about the Mercury. Here the planet name is Mercury. In Indian name it is called as Budh. So this Mercury is the smallest planet in the solar system. It is smallest, and from the distance it is the first close to the Sun. As it is very close to the Sun, it is not visible properly because the brightness, the glare of the Sun covers this planet. So you are not able to see it properly as it is very close to the Sun. So it is seen only during, just before the sunset, sunrise, and after the sunset you can see near the horizon. To see that, the area must be clear from trees and buildings. So just like the places where you find some seashore like that, where you can see the horizon, and those point you can see this particular planet Mercury. It is small and close to Sun, and there are no satellites to this planet. So this planet do not contain any satellites. Now let us look at the next planet next to Mercury, that is the Venus. Venus is a neighbor planet to the Earth because Venus takes up the second position. The first one is Mercury and Earth is in the third position. So who is the neighbor here? Venus is neighbor to the Earth. In Indian name it is called as Shukra Graha, Shukra. So the size is, it is bigger than Mercury and comparatively smaller than Earth. So that is the size and appearance, brightest planet. It is the brightest planet, usually seen in the sky in the morning and evening. So it is called as, sometimes it is called as morning star or evening star, but actually it is not a star. It is a planet. It appears in the western sky. So it appears in the morning just before the sunrise and just after the sunset it is appeared in the sky. And the Venus, it does not contain any satellites, so no satellites, and its rotation, there is a little bit difference with the Earth. Earth rotates from west to east, whereas this one rotates from east to west. That is the difference. So this is the second planet in the solar system. Next we see the third one, that is the Earth. So the next planet, the third planet is the Earth. This is the only planet in the solar system on which the life exists, the possibility of life, and all the conditions, atmospheric conditions that support the life. The Earth is covered by land as well as by water. The Earth is surrounded by an atmosphere which contains the mixture of gases. So by that, the life is possible here. The Earth appearance, it appears from the sky in the space like a blue-green planet. The blue and green planet is because of the reflection of sunlight from this land, appearance of the land, the greenery and the water, the oceans. So because of this light refraction and reflection, different phenomena of light bring that particular blue-green appearance to the Earth. So the Earth has got only one satellite, natural satellite, that is the Moon, and the Earth rotates from west to east. It is bigger than Venus in size and smaller than the next planet, Mars. So this is about the Earth. So the Earth is the third planet. It is the blue-green planet. It has got the atmosphere, water and all the necessities for the existence of life, and the only planet that contains the life on which we are living. It has got a natural satellite, that is the Moon, revolving around the Earth. There are two more important points that we have to notice or learn about the Earth. Is the Earth, it rotates from west to east. West to east. So that is the reason why the Sun seems to appear like east. Sun is traveling from east to west because the Earth is rotating from west to east. The Earth, it rotates on its own axis. So this axis is not perpendicular to its path. If this is the Sun, this is the orbit, this is the Earth, here is the Earth. So the Earth's axis is not perpendicular, it is having a little inclination like this. So not straight, not perpendicular, not making a right angle. It is making an inclination. So this is the axis of the Earth. So these are the different important aspects about the third planet of our solar system, the Earth. So now let us see the next planet next to the Earth, that is the Mars, which is called as Mangal Graha, that is the Mars planet. So Mars planet, because of its appearance, reddish appearance, it is called as a red planet. It is next to the Earth. So we are very familiar with this Mars. Scientists are experimenting, scientists are sending probes to the Mars. Scientists are planning to send people to Mars to find out the conditions, whether they will support the life or not. They wanted to check out whether the life supporting conditions are there or not. Because humans, they wanted to expand. As a growing population needs land, we occupy most of the Earth and its resources are being used. So we are in the identification of something else, some other place. So Mars expedition. There are certain organizations which are planning to send the people to Mars. Many people are competing to give their name, get registered to go to Mars. It is a one-time journey, one-side journey, one-way journey. People, those who are taken to the Mars, they cannot come back according to that plan. But still they are interested. So people are very curious about Mars because as it is very close to the Earth, so there are certain features which give us an idea that life may survive in future on this planet Mars, that is Mangal. So Mangalyaan is one plan of our Indian space organizations and other space organizations, international space organizations. They are having so many plans to completely investigate the conditions on the Mars and see that whether we can establish certain artificial conditions for agriculture or to make the life possible on that planet. So Mars is a red planet. It has got 2 satellites. So next to Mars, Jupiter. Jupiter is called Brihaspati in Indian names. So the Jupiter, it is the largest planet in the solar system. It is the largest planet and it is equal to 1300 times of Earth in size. 1300 times larger than the Earth. You can compare the difference. Very large. In weight, it is 318 times heavier than the Earth. 318 times heavier than the Earth. It rotates very rapidly. In its appearance, it has got faint rings and it has got so many satellites. With the help of a telescope, we will be able to see that 4 largest satellites of this planet, Jupiter. So now let us see the next planet, that is Saturn. Saturn is called as Shani in Indian context. So Indian name. What are the features of this Saturn? So when you talk about Saturn, you will get the idea, get the picture of Saturn with number of beautiful rings around the planet. So of course these rings are not visible to a naked eye. With the help of a small telescope, you can see the beautiful rings around this yellow planet Saturn. Saturn is yellow in color with beautiful rings and it has a large number of satellites. And one more important feature of this satellite is it is the very less density, the planet with the least density in the solar system. Its density is very low as lesser than the water. So the density of this Saturn planet is less than the density of water. That means if it is possible, if you bring this Saturn and put it in the water, it will float because it is lighter. You know that certain things float on water, like wood, it floats on water, like cork, it floats on water because their density is less than the density of water. In the same way, the planet Saturn's density is lesser than the water. This is all about the Saturn. So now let us look at the next members, Uranus and Neptune. So Uranus and Neptune, of course including the Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. So all these are outer planets. So in the solar system, the center one is the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth. This is a Mercury, Venus, Earth. After that, we have Mars. So the planets that fall below this, inside the orbit of Mars. What are they? Mercury, Venus, Earth. So here, the planets that come inside the orbit of the Mars are called as inner planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth. So look at their position. So they are not crossing the orbit of the Mars. They are inside the orbit of the Mars. Those are called as inner planets. The planets that are outside the Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus and Neptune. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, these are all outside the orbit of Mars. These are all called as outer planets. These are the outer planets. What are the outer planets? Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. These are the outer planets. So Uranus and Neptune, they fall under the outer planets. The outer planets, they have certain ring-like structures around them, and they have number of satellites, more number of satellites. The inner planets, they may have only one satellite, one moon or no moon at all. But whereas the outer planets, they used to have more number of moons or more number of satellites. So if you look at the Uranus, Uranus is highly tilted rotational axis. This is the Earth. Its axis is like this, some inclination. If you take Uranus, its axis is like this. So this is the orbit. So when it is revolving in the orbit, it appears like it is rolling on its side because it is very much tilted. The inclination is very much 90 degrees tilt. See that? Very much tilted. So because of that, it appears like it is rotating on its sides. When you see the revolution of this particular Uranus, it is moving on its side, it appears, because of its axis. They have a ring-like system and many satellites. So all these outer planets, they have a ring-like system around them and so many satellites. So that is about the Uranus and Neptune. So now let us see the other members of the solar system. We discussed about the stars, that is the sun, and we discussed about the planets and their satellites. So what else are there in the solar system? In the solar system, along with the sun and planets, we see the asteroids, comets and meteors and meteorites. What are these? Asteroids are the bodies, dust and rocky material that is found in the solar system, especially in the gap between Mars and Jupiter. Between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter, there is a belt of rock and dust. So that is, the rocky material is nothing but the asteroids. Now what are comets? Comets are also a part of the solar system. Comets are also the bodies that revolve around the sun, but their orbits are completely elliptical, very distorted. So they are not like the orbits of this Earth. See, sometimes they come very close to Earth, sometimes they go very far to Earth. Say for example, if this is the sun, the orbit of a comet may be like this. See, so sometimes the comet comes very close, sometimes it goes very far. The comet will be having a tail. So as the comet is approaching the sun, the length of the tail increases more. The tail is always away from the sun. That is what we have to notice. So in this way, the tail is always away from the sun. But when it is close to sun, the tail is much bigger. But when it is like this, so that is a comet. So the comets, they revolve around the sun in a highly elliptical orbit. One of such comet is Halley's comet. They have some specific time period. So here the Halley's comet, for every 76 years it is seen in the sky. So it will be traveling a very long distance in a highly elliptical orbit. So it was last seen in 1986. So it will take 76 years to appear again, Halley's comet. So these are the comets. So the other things are meteors and meteorites. What are these meteors and meteorites? So these are also the rocky materials, objects that are found in the solar system. Sometimes they enter the Earth's atmosphere. Due to the gravity of the Earth, they are pulled towards the Earth. So it is like a huge boulder of rock falling on the Earth. But here, the meteors, when they enter the atmosphere, due to the friction of the air, they start burning. So as they are burning, they appear as a streak of light like this. A streak of light going in the night sky when there is no moon, only stars are there, you can observe it. Some streaks going on. Those are nothing but the meteors, whichever enter the atmosphere, due to the friction they will burn and evaporate in very less time. So they are not very big enough to hit the earth, they are small. So they are burnt by the friction of the atmosphere. So they are called as streaks of light or shooting stars. With those names it is called shooting stars. Sometimes if the meteor is big enough, even though the friction is acting on, if it reaches the earth's surface, you call it as a meteorite. You call it as a meteorite. So when it hits the earth, it may form a crater. Sometimes if it is heavy, it may form a crater on the earth. And these meteorites are helpful for the scientists to study about the celestial objects. Right? So these are the other bodies of the solar system. So in this lesson, we learnt about the stars, constellations, and the other parts of the solar system, the parts of the solar system, about the sun and about the planets and satellites, comets, asteroids, meteors and meteorites. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel to get more videos on CBSE syllabus.